If you are looking to increase the flavor of your home cooked meals, improve your health, and even reduce your exposure to plastics, especially in food, making and maybe even canning homemade broth might be the right thing for you. Hey everybody, it's Ashley, and in today's video, we are making a massive batch of broth and I'm gonna can it. Well, it's mid-May. The temperature today is nice and cool, and I am going to try to make broth so that I don't have to make it anytime this summer, even into the fall when the temperatures are warmer. And if you're a canner, you know that canning heats up the house. Making broth also really heats up the house. These are ways that I'm gonna try to just not have to deal with that all summer long. Making healthy and delicious meals for myself and my family is a massive priority. Yes, I could just buy broth. Yes, I could just buy a powder or a paste to mix in instead. I don't want to have to buy something that's been pre-made or pre-packaged with food additives, flavor enhancers, and those types of things for us to be able to have delicious meals. And making homemade broth is one of those ways that you can not only bypass all of that junk, but you can actually get an incredibly nutritious thing to boost almost any dish that would call for broth or water. But doing it this way is important to me and is a priority. So that's why I'm doing it. Before we get to the rest of the canning video, I want to tell you guys about some things happening over at the Citystead Kitchen website. We have ingredient guides to make healthy and delicious meal planning so much easier. These guides are here to help make getting rid of ultra-processed foods out of your diet and feed you and your family with all kinds of things that our bodies are looking for, which is all the vitamins and nutrients in real whole food. Make sure to check out the bundle as it groups all the guides in one place. I have got my largest kettle out. This is, I think, 22 quarts, and it is about somewhere between 2/3 and 3/4 full. Today for this broth, I am going to be doing a whole chicken as well as some frozen bones. You might see this. I'm holding it just so that I can hopefully get some better sound. Anyway, so I'm using these frozen bones. I got these from our local food co-op. You can probably find them at a butcher or a regular grocery store. And then I'm also going to use just a whole chicken. You can use any cut of chicken. In fact, I will go ahead and link my broth making video that I've previously done. This is like deluxe. It's where I add all the extras. Today, we're just doing meat and water. Now, I am going to have to make multiple batches of broth in this kettle because of how much broth that I want to make. I want to make sure that we have enough to get through many, many months. And sometimes we use a lot, but usually it's less. So I'm hoping to get over 20 quarts and hopefully just as many pints. So I'm going to take you along and show you the different broths that I make. I'm hoping to get this done in just 2 rounds. The frozen bones, I have 4 more packages that are a little bit bigger than that. So maybe I'll do this big full twice and then potentially a third smaller. We'll just have to see how it goes. Nutrition is really important. We all know this. Food is a basic need, but I also feel like good nutrition is also a basic need. And unfortunately, not all food is made equal. And let's be honest, some ultra processed food is downright harmful to our health. Also, a huge part of canning broth for me is the fact that I get a can in glass. The fact that I don't have to have something that is then sitting in plastic, whether it's a metal can lined with plastic, a paper box that's lined with plastic, all of those things do have plastic that is touching your food while it's sitting after it's been canned and processed. I actually don't even know how they can things in those paper containers without having to heat treat it while it's in that plastic. If you know about how that's done, let us know. But with regards to canning, all that is plastic lined is the lid itself. That is BPA free at least, but it doesn't touch your food. Even the really expensive broths that you can buy in stores are still in plastics. I want you to be as healthy as you can be or you want to be, and I truly feel like making a homemade broth is a great way to make a huge difference in not only your health, but the quality of your meals. If there's something that you've done recently to improve your health, I'd love for you to share, so throw it in the comments. Okay, so I think that's enough talking. We are going to just go ahead and put our meat right in the water and let it go. I'm just gonna let it go until I feel like it's done. Some people have specific numbers of hours that they'll do this. I may even turn it way down and let it go overnight. I don't usually like to do that, so I'm a little conflicted, but what that would allow me to do is then get started with the canning of this right away tomorrow morning. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this stuff in here too. It's the neck, the gizzard, I think, probably the liver. Those are all great things that I actually really like having in my broth. I'll kind of keep you updated on how the broth progresses. I'll let you know how long these are going. And then as we start canning, I'll bring you along the way, show you the process, and also show you how much we get. We got our water up to a boil. This is not cooked and nothing has really started to break down. Here is some soft tissue that's going to break down and make an amazingly rich broth. This is something that, because I'm going to be canning this, I want it to be nice and clean. So I'm going to skim this off. It will continue to release that for, I don't know, maybe on and off over the next half hour. I also have like a little strainer that can get a little bit more of the fine stuff. Always before I can, or even if I'm freezing broth, I always run the broth through a fine mesh sieve, just like this one, except it's larger. So it can pour water through with catching all that stuff. But this works great for this too. And it's actually doing a better job than that spoon because the pieces are really small. But when this really gets boiling, you'll see a lot of foam. You can go ahead and skim that off if you want. It'll give you a cleaner broth. One more thing I will add about skimming now when it's still in this sort of raw form and it's just starting to get going is that it doesn't become part of the broth. If you leave it in, it does become a part of the broth and you cannot skim that off later. The skimming must happen kind of when it's foaming and in that stage. All right, we are already on to our second batch of broth. It has been, let's see, I took 1 or 2 days. I can't even remember now. I think I took 1 day in between. I didn't do any broth making yesterday, but I did get my kettle filled back up. And this time I've got these 2 packages of bones. It's just chicken bones. These bags are about 3 pounds each. This is about 6 pounds of bones total. And you can see here that these are chicken backs. Some of the skin is still on. I'm gonna go ahead and get these in. Maybe throw a little bit of apple cider vinegar in there. I didn't last time. That can actually help to pull out all of the nutrients and collagen in the bone. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this batch going. Okay, you guys, we did a 24-hour boil on this batch of broth. And the reason I wanted to go longer is because we didn't have that whole chicken in there. So I just thought, let's just pull as much as we can out. And honestly, it's not a bad approach for any batch of broth. I probably could have done, see how just nothing to it. All of the connective stuff has completely boiled into the water. I'm gonna go ahead and get this canned up. One of the things that I should mention is when I'm canning broth, I like to use the regular mouth quarts. Wide mouths are so helpful for a lot of different reasons. However, when it comes to canning broth, it's just liquid. So you're just gonna pour it out anyway. The water level on our broth as well was a lot higher when all of the boiling was finished. So we are actually gonna get a lot more broth out of this batch. Plus there's less bones and things in the water itself. So I'm really excited to see the yield from this batch. We've got 1 more to go. This broth is so rich and so full of these amazing nutrients from this chicken. And I'm so glad that we're gonna have this to help to really feed our family in an amazing way. All right, we got the last bit of broth in the jars. I decided to use quarts again and just finish off this entire batch with quart. And then for my last batch of broth, I'm gonna do all pints. We got 6 more here. This was the last one. It's a little darker only because there's a little sediment at the bottom. We're gonna go ahead and get these in, processing 25 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure. Pints are only 20 minutes, so we're gonna get these going. All right, here we are. We got our pints. We got our pints loaded. We got 8 total. I have 8 more jars washed up. I'm going to probably get more than 16 pints out of the broth that I made. This is the 3rd batch. This one overnight, it went probably about 19 hours. Not quite as many hours as batch 2, but that's okay. We're just gonna go ahead and get these loaded. I'm going to put 8 in because that's how many my canner fits. I wish I could double stack these, but I don't think my canner is one that can double stack regular mouth pints. That would be so nice because I could get 16, which would be amazing. We got 8 in there and we're gonna get this processing 20 minutes. All right, I'm about to tighten all of these rings and I wanna just tell you real quick what I did. I ended up putting 2 quarts full because I had extra, and I didn't know if I had enough technically to run another canner after these go through. Whoop, this one's just up to pressure. Turn this down, start my timer. But anyway, so I had quite a bit extra broth. And so instead of just adding a bunch more quarts, I'm like, I'm just gonna add 2 and I'll get 6 more pints. And then with this, I'm gonna freeze it the way I normally do, which is to use these wide mouth pints. I'm just gonna do that so we have a little bit, and then we'll just have a little extra frozen broth, and that's okay. So I'm gonna put these in my oven. I have it set at 200 degrees, which is where I keep my jars when I want them to be warm, because I'm feeling something hot. And I'm just gonna go ahead and put them in there. They're completely ready to go in the canner, but I like to do that so that they stay nice and warm and they're just like ready to go, just as if I had filled them. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these in the oven, wait until this guy finishes. The thing I'm gonna mention is when you're mixing sizes in a canner, whether it's your pressure canning or water bath canning, they have to go based on the length of time for the larger jar. So even though these normally go 20 minutes, the whole batch is gonna go for 25 because of these guys. So I'm legitimately in our basement. But anyway, I just wanted to give you a quick recap and show you the things that we have, the things that we canned, one shot, where I store it. It's kind of haphazard. I usually like to organize it a little bit better, but I'm just like, whatever. It's here, it's good, it's fine, whatever. And so we have all this broth, and I'm gonna be honest, I would be a little shocked if we go through all this broth, if we run out of all this broth, but we'll see. I'll keep you posted if you're curious about it. And I'll just kind of mention it in one of my future videos, just how the broth went. I wanted to get one shot of just sort of all the broth. This is where we store a lot of our canned goods, and just, I don't know, different food things, canning related things, big bowls, etc. So we got 22 quarts, 19 pints. If you remember, we would have had more pints, but I did the batch. I did some in the quarts, so that's fine. And if I do need to open one up and I don't want to use it all, and for some reason I've used all my pints, I can just freeze it, you know, if we're not going to use it. So we keep it in our cool, dry basement that's also dark. And anyway, it's a good place to store canned goods. We've got some other things here still, pears, applesauce. But you can see just, you know, slight variations in each one. That's totally fine. 3 different batches, 6 different rounds through the canner, and that's what we got. I will pop my granola recipe if you want to check that out. It is something that we continue to make over and over. The recipe evolves. You can reduce or increase things. You can go grain-free. You can reduce the sugar, eliminate the sugar. You can do whatever you want. It's a very customizable recipe, but it's a great place to start. We will talk with you soon.